Good morning. It's May 31st, 2012, last day of May. Hope you're having a great spring, summer season. We are having certainly good weather here in La Crescenta, California. Obviously, there's a lot of things that need to be better in the world, but that's usually the case. What I want to talk about this morning is a false representation that many debt collectors are making concerning credit reporting. And let me just give you a little brief background of what this is. If you have a credit line or a credit card debt or a home mortgage, anything like that, and you reach a settlement with your creditor, with your bank, if you reach a settlement with your creditor, they will credit report it as settled for less than full amount. The wording may be a little bit different depending on who's doing the reporting, but the basic concept is they will credit report it as settled for less than full amount. That is absolutely a derogatory negative mark on your credit. And frankly, it's a very serious derogatory negative mark on your credit. It's not, I believe it to be more serious than a 30-day late. I don't know exactly how much weight it's given in credit scoring, but based upon my experience, just seeing people's credit reports, it is heavier than a 30 or a 60-day late, but it is not as heavy as something like, say, a foreclosure or a tax lien. I mean, those are obviously a lot worse. The derogatory mark of settled for less than full amount is definitely derogatory. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Now, here's where the false representation comes in. Debt collectors will call people who owe money and they'll say, we'll settle the debt. Let's say you owe $1,000. We'll settle the debt for $5,000, and then we'll report it as settled to the credit bureaus, and they make it sound like that's something good or something that is not negative. It is absolutely false. If they are going to credit report it as settled for less than full amount, it is absolutely a serious derogatory mark, and it will definitely tank your credit score, no doubt about it. A few things to know about this whole, settling debts routine, which I don't think that most people know. Number one is when you settle a debt, particularly a larger debt like a mortgage debt, bear in mind that the creditor is going to send you a 1099 for the amount of forgiven debt. So you're going to have to report it as income on your taxes. I don't think that most debt settlement companies tell you that. I think they should. So for instance, if you have a $400,000 mortgage and your house is now underwater and you get your bank to forgive, let's say $75,000 in the mortgage and rewrite the loan, you'll get a 1099 for $75,000 like it's your income, like you earned that money and you have to pay taxes on it. That's usually a rude awakening for people who go into loan modifications. Number two, and I think that this is more important or more pertinent to the issue of debt collection and credit reporting. When you settle a debt, you restart the 7-year clock on that debt. As I've said in previous videos, basically a creditor will credit report by law. They're allowed to credit report a delinquent debt for 7 years and 6 months from the date of first delinquency. But if there's any activity on that account during that 7 years and 6 months, it restarts the clock. So the creditor gets a credit report for a brand new 7 years and 6 months. So let's say you have a 3 or 4 year old 30-day late or 3 or 4 year old charge-off that's showing up on your credit report. Doesn't look good, I agree with you. But after 3 or 4 years, it probably doesn't have that much of an effect upon your credit score. It's looked at as an old debt. It's looked at as something that's not really affecting your current financial situation. But if a debt collector picks up that debt in some portfolio purchase and starts debt collecting you, and you settle it for less than full amount, they're going to start credit reporting you, settled for less than full amount, and they're going to restart the 7-year and 6-month clock. So they're going to start it all over again. So you're going to have that derogatory mark actually heavier and longer on your credit report than if you just left it alone. Obviously, from a standpoint of underwriting, from a standpoint of someone, if you want to apply for a mortgage or a car loan or something like that, from a standpoint of underwriting, it's better to have your debts paid off in general. But if you have an old debt, like something that's been sitting on your credit report for a few years, and it's already charged off, it's already in default, whatever. A lot of times, I got to tell you, from a standpoint of credit scoring, a lot of times it's best just to leave it alone. If the debt collector calls you and says, hey, pay half of it and we'll report it as settled and everything will be fine. Number one, the debt collector is lying to you, because if they report it as settled, it's a derogatory mark on your credit report. But number two, bear in mind that it's going to reset the clock, and so your credit score is going to tank that day for a debt 3 or 4 years old that probably wasn't affecting your credit report very much if you just left it alone. And sometimes you got to leave it alone. You got to just leave it alone and move forward, and do other things to build up your credit score. If you have an old debt sitting there, an old charge-off or something like that, a lot of times it's best just to leave it alone. Don't mess around with it. Anyway, I hope this information is helpful. If the debt collector is telling you that a settled for less than full amount is not going to affect your credit score, they are lying to you. Tell them to put it in writing. That would be the best, because obviously, if I were to represent you in a lawsuit, they would all deny it, or they can't remember the conversation. I mean, that's normally how things happen. Say, gee, I'd like to consider that, but why don't you put it in a letter to me? They won't. I can pretty much promise you. But anyway, there's some information. I think it's going to prove helpful for you in terms of credit reporting, credit scoring, and so forth. And I hope the rest of the year goes well for you. Take care.